So, everybody, this is Mr. Mike. Woohoo! Mr. Mike and Miss Rachel right down here.
Hello.
And then Miss Kim. Wait, how do I, down there?
Over here.
I think we
Where
move
you are.
around.
So we just got done doing a kids church live and had a ball. We have these two little kids from Georgia that join us, and they are amazing. It's such a fun thing to do. And Mr. Mike, tell everybody where you live.
I live in the great state of Ohio.
Ohio.
In a little
OH.
city named Cleveland.
This little city named Cleveland. And we've been friends since the late 80s. And Mr. Mike.
We're old.
I know.
You guys are old.
Well, he's a lot older than I am.
I was only 10 when we met.
That's right. So we've been doing kids ministry. Mike was one of the first people that showed up and said, "Hey, I'll help." And I was so glad to have him because he played the guitar.
Ooh.
And he had kids in kids ministry. At that point, you had what? 3 kids in kids ministry or 2?
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yep.
And they were Rachel,
Rachel, Michael, and Janelle.
Janelle.
And they were 5, 6, and 7.
And they were so fun. I remember you guys lived pretty close to us, and we would come over to your house and steal your food, and you would cook, and we'd barbecue, and then I think one year we went together with you guys to see the fireworks down by the lake.
Yeah, more than 1 year. It was a few years we went down there. You broke my hand one time throwing me a baseball.
Is that true? Is
No,
that real?
He didn't break it, but it blew up about this big. I said, throw me the ball, and he threw it about 100 miles an hour.
It's why I needed shoulder surgery later on.
He had to have his shoulder replaced after that.
Oh,
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time together, but Mr. Mike was one of these guys that, so we would get together as a group of people that in kids ministry, and we would get together and talk about how we're going to do this stuff. And Mike was never short of ideas.
Mhm.
And occasionally one would be like good.
really? You never told me that.
Okay, so for a while we went with this group. I think they were on the east side of Cleveland, and they would go into a neighborhood and pick up a bunch of kids on a bus and then take them to this, was it a school or was it a church?
It was a church with a big like cafeteria room or something.
Mhm.
That's
Like a-
right.
Fellowship hall type of thing.
And there were, it seemed like hundreds of kids in this room. And they asked us to come and do a show one time. And I think by that point, we kind of knew a little bit more of what we were doing than when we first started. And Mike, where did you work at the time?
I worked at a vending company, and I fixed vending machines. And one of the vending machines was those crane machines where you get stuffed animals.
And he showed up with all these stuffed animals. And right in the middle of the show, he turned around and he said, "Hey, watch this." And he threw one of these stuffed animals into the crowd. And there was, do you know the commercials Mayhem?
There was like 500 of them.
You know, what is it? Allstate or no? It's one of those insurance companies where Mayhem.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched TV in so long.
It
I haven't
was-
either. I don't.
I thought I saw a couple guns come out and a couple knives.
I'm sure I saw parents push their kid down so they can get the toy.
That's right. So in other words, we didn't know what we were doing,
Mm,
but we kept showing up because why?
Because
we
there
like
was hunger.
Kids were hungry for God.
Mhm.
Yes.
And we wanted to show them how much God loved them and cared for them. And just like today is National Caregivers Day.
Mhm.
And I had a conversation, Rachel, I had a conversation with Mike earlier this week about the time when he had to take care of his mom, who was fighting
Answer.
cancer. And how long did you have to take care of her, Mr. Mike?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
He had to actually move into her house because at some point, because she was unable to do anything for herself. And you said the last month.
The last month was really tough. The last year I stayed with her, but the last month was really tough
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why did you do that?
because I loved her.
Yeah. And you wanted to show her how much you cared for her. And you were a caregiver that didn't get a check.
Yes, but I got to spend time with my mom.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Miss Rachel, tell us how you got started in kids ministry.
How I got started in kids ministry. So, I guess my love for kids really started when I went on my first mission trip. When I was 15. I was never like, I was always the oldest on my cousin's side, so I was always taking care of like my younger cousins, and that was more of an expected thing for me, but it was never something that I enjoyed. It was just like, oh, this is my job, it's what I have to do. But then when I first went on this mission trip and I realized how
Where-
much
Where'd you go?
I went to St. Croix. I went to St. Croix in
Well, that's a
2015.
big mission trip.
But when I first went, it made me to see the kids get really excited about like God and about worshiping and about learning more and realizing that there is somebody who loves them, like made me just as excited to learn more too. Like I felt like rejuvenated, almost like I turned back into a child, because I was like, you're right, God is really cool. And so I remember like that really sparked my love for children and like wanting to teach them. And when I started working with you a lot too, I remember like 1 week I was backstage doing the puppets, and then I was like, I don't think this is for me. And then the next week I was helping you like actually teach, and I was like, okay, this is what I love doing. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of times with people, I test them.
Oh, I went through a test.
You're telling your secrets.
I didn't
No.
study.
No, a test to see.
What you're willing to do.
Mhm.
Yep. Just like Mike, he was willing to whatever I needed.
Hmm.
So we were children's pastors at a big church in Cincinnati. I think it was my birthday, wasn't it, Kim?
Yes, it was for your birthday.
And they said, Jim, you don't have to do anything this weekend. You're going to sit and watch.
Oh.
And I was like, this is awesome. So I was so like, we did 2 services Saturday night, 4 Sunday morning, 1 Sunday night, and 1 Wednesday night. And they said, you don't have to do anything. So I was like, this is awesome. So we had a witness come, a witness that was, telling the Bible story every service. And then I think it was the last, like the 1 o'clock service. It might've been 11:30 or 1, I can't remember. But one of the services, I was like, who is this guy? And it was, he had his whole face covered and had hair everywhere and this costume on. And he was telling the story. And I was like, I don't recognize who this is. Who is this? And then towards the end of it, I was like, wait, I think it's Mike. Made the trip 4 hours
Hmm.
down to Cincinnati from Cleveland. And he was the witness. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best birthday ever.
It was fun.
It was so fun. Hey, were you with us when we went to Kentucky to do kids church?
No,
Oh, I get all these churches confused with other ones. So Rachel, then what have you done since with kids?
Afterwards, after I taught, even after you left at Word of Life, I taught for a few more years, and then I've decided to take a break recently. But because of that, because of my love that started at church, I started working with kids like outside of church. Like both of my part-time jobs have to do with children. So I used to be an after-school tutor with kids, and then now I'm an after-school counselor where all I do is just spend time with kids. And I realize I'm like, I love it. I love children so much.
But I was trying to get you to talk about another thing that you do,
Another thing that I do.
and it's involves an airplane.
Oh, going on missions? I do. I go on a lot of mission trips that are all children's based, VBS based.
And
So
where
have
do you
been?
go?
Where have you been?
I have been to St. Croix. I went to Italy. I have been to the Philippines twice, and I have also been to Japan.
Mhm.
All on mission trips
wow.
for children.
For children.
For
Yep.
children.
She gets it, Mr. Mike.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But what have you been doing recently, Mr. Mike, for the past few years?
Well, the past few years, not too much with children, just starting back up. Actually, I just today in my email got what I'm going to be doing now. But before that, I was doing 5-year-old classes at the church I'm going to now.
That's kids.
Yeah, and you find out, I remember a church that we both went to said it's not important for children's church. That they didn't have to put so much into children's church. I can't remember the name right now.
Don't worry about
But-
the name.
All right.
But I remember God saying, train up a child in the way he should go. And I said, and it said, yeah, if you show them love now, you won't have so many adults to fix up.
Mm,
Mhm.
Perfect.
that's true.
It's so much easier to shape a child's direction
Right.
than it is to fix an adult's direction.
Right. It's like, oh, I was about to say, it's like what my dad says. He tells me it a lot, especially with like what's going on recently, is that it only takes the enemy one generation to wipe out everything. Because if you have one generation that doesn't believe, that's one generation that doesn't teach what comes after, and that's another generation that doesn't teach after, and it just keeps on going, and that's it. You've lost.
So what are some funny stories, Mr. Mike, that you remember from our adventures?
Oh, I just remember the love of the kids. One thing that if you really want to make it feel like you're doing something, go teach kids. In a littler, it seems like you'll never find hungry adults like you'll find hungry kids.
It's
And the
true.
kid, every time you'd call up a kid to help us out, you had to pick between like 100. Everybody would raise their hand, and then they wouldn't even ask. They would just start coming down, and you'd say, "Oh, okay, Mark, yeah, you, yeah, you." Whoever got down first to be a helper, and they would love to act out, and they love to hear stories. They love everything we do, and you never had to worry about if you did it correctly. They didn't say, "Oh, you missed that note. You said that word wrong." It was like anything you did, they laughed and they got it. And then I would remember the next week you would talk and say, "Okay, what do we?" And they all remembered everything you said the week before.
Yep.
Yes.
So do you remember when we tried to do a lesson about light and dark and the difference between light and dark? And we had a witness that week, and it was going to be Jonah, because he was in the darkness for a few days, had some time to reflect on his choices. And so we had one of the guys, I don't think it was you. Was it you doing Jonah? I think it was Bruce.
Yeah, I think it was Bruce.
Who was doing the noises?
That was George on the keyboard.
George. Yeah.
So George Pallotta was like,
You gave names. You shouldn't give names.
I mean, he was proud of this.
That was not his real last name. That was not his real last name.
I can edit that part out. So he's on the keyboard, like stomach noises from the whale. Bruce thinks it's a good idea to have a flashlight underneath his face, which
Oh,
causes
no.
all these weird shadows
Mm-hmm.
In a dark room.
in a
And
completely,
who
I
turned
said,
the lights off? Who turned the lights off?
I said, hey, turn the lights off. And we had covered. Yeah. This is part of my story. So we covered the windows with tape. So it was completely black. Bruce with the flashlight, George with the weird noises. And he's sitting on the step telling the story of Jonah and how awful it was, the smell, and how it was being in the darkness. And all of a sudden, in the complete silence of the room, there was. And then that scream spread to this person, that person, that person, that person, that. And then eventually the whole room was just screaming.
Chaos. Chaos.
I was like, lights, please.
That little girl still, well, she's not a little girl. She's a mom now of 4 children.
Oh,
She still talks about it.
She's traumatized.
Traumatized.
I said, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I've done a few.
We had better days.
Sometimes you got to try things and see if it works or not. Guess what?
Oh,
I
I
never
lost-
did again.
Yeah.
I never turned the lights out all the way unless I had a black lights on and neon on, or yeah. So you learn. You can't be afraid to try, Mr. Mike.
Yeah, I think I only hear you through Kim's mic.
Yeah, we're not hearing
Aw.
you, honey. I was
You're
just
not
gonna tell
hearing
you,
me?
wait.
Did you hear the story?
I can hear you fine. It got messed up
Yeah,
a bit,
until,
but
until you were saying that a girl was traumatized till she was an adult. And then we
Oh,
couldn't
yeah,
hear
yeah.
And you kind of faded out.
I'm sorry. So I'll tell that part
And
again.
my phone just said I have 10% left.
Oh,
Okay, we gotta hurry.
got to wrap it up.
oh, okay.
So yeah, you got to try stuff. You can't be afraid to try. You have to
Mhm.
be able to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes. Don't do it again, but learn from your mistakes. And because you're just caring for the kids, you're caring for the families, just like this whole COVID thing. If there's anything it's taught us, just throw everything that you know out the window. Try something new.
Unless what you know
Oh,
is
no.
Minions fart blasters. The kids
I think-
love these.
See, I think that might have fallen into the category of one of those ideas that just didn't work.
Those were great. I'll tell you that much. Boy, the kids
wait.
listen to everything if they get to shoot the fart.
Get the
blaster.
farts going. But here's the thing. What did the kids tell their parents on the way home? Like, what did you learn at church today? We learned how to fart.
You are going to cut this out of here. That's for sure.
We learned how to make noises that are a little bit obnoxious.
And that brought 'em back, and that brings them back to kids class next week.
That's true. It's like me and the squirt guns.
Oh, wow. What great memories those were.
So good. But you got to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid. try
Nope.
it, see if it works. And if it doesn't, then okay.
It always makes me laugh when people are like, Rachel, how are you just so good with kids? And I'm just like, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Oh,
Well, thank you, Mr. Mike. Thank you, Miss Rachel, for joining us. Miss Kim,
Yes.
Welcome.
so good to see you.
well, I'm gonna go back to my favorite thing,
Take
pretending.
me out,
Not baseball, it's pretending.
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 Do you have your other hat?
Not right here.
Oh, I wanted Miss Rachel to see your other hat.
Hold
He's
on.
got it. Okay. He's got another hat that he wears to the baseball games.
hmm
And I was
Goes to
watching
every Cleveland Indians game.
the game on TV one time and I was like, wait,
And you saw?
I think that was Mr. Mike.
Oh my goodness.
There it is. There it is. I love it.
That's great.
can-
I love
You
it.
can pick that out of the stadium, let me tell you.
And he always held this big
This is my
sign,
game hat.
and he always had the big sign that said,
Let's go try.
Yep.
Represent.
Or if we turned it over, it said it's tribe time.
that's right. Well, love you.
Love you
Hey
too.
guys, good talking to you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.